It was a Monday when my femur snapped like a branch. I didn't scream for help because I already knew no one was coming. I was 13 years old, slipped on black ice taking the trash out, left leg twisted under me like a broken hinge, bone clean through the skin. I laid there for a second, stunned at the sight of white sticking out of red. Then I reached for my phone. Mom picked up on the second ring. "We're already on Interstate 70, she said. "I told you not to take it out in socks. I think it's broken." A pause, then a sigh. "We've been planning this for months, sweetheart. You always find a way." Click. That was it. That's the line that stuck. Not the bone, not the cold. That. You always find a way. They left that morning. Dad packed the car. Brother bounced around in his Buzz Lightyear hoodie. I watched from the living room window with an ice pack on my leg and a note on the fridge. "Emergency numbers on the counter. Use the microwave, not the stove. We'll call tonight. Don't forget to feed the dog." There was no dog. We'd put him down 2 years earlier. They just never updated the note. By hour 3, the pain blurred. By hour 5, the numbness set in. By hour 7, I'd crawled into the bathroom and pulled myself onto a bath mat. I pissed myself once, cried twice, tried calling again around dinner time. Straight to voicemail. Later that night, a FaceTime call came through. My brother holding a churro in one hand, a Mickey balloon in the other. "Mom said you're being dramatic," he said, chewing. "We did Thunder Mountain first. You would have freaked out." He laughed. I didn't. "I gotta go. Dad said not to use all the data." The screen went black. I woke up at 3:17 a.m., still on the tile, still broken, phone battery at 6%. I used what was left to Google how to set a broken leg. I passed out before I could read step 3. A neighbor found me the next morning. Mrs. Clay, the old widow who always left out cat food for strays, said she saw blood on the snow near the garbage cans. Knocked. Got no answer. Let herself in. She called 911. I remember the paramedics looking at me like I was a crime scene. "You said your parents are where?" "Disney World." One of them blinked. Jesus. At the hospital, I got surgery, pins, a cast up to my hip. Doctor said I'd probably walk fine. Might limp on cold mornings. I asked if the break could have been worse because I waited. He just looked at me for a long time. Didn't say yes. Didn't say no. They picked me up 4 days later. Brother had mouse ears on. Mom was sunburnt. Dad was quiet. "You could have told us it was that bad," Mom said in the car. "I did." She frowned. "Anyway, we brought you back something." She handed me a plush. Goofy. Not even Mickey. Tag still on. Dinner that night was meatloaf. Dad asked how the hospital food was. Brother asked if I'd seen the new Lego set he got from the gift shop. I said nothing, just nodded. That's when I realized silence worked better than screams. Screams could be ignored. Silence made them nervous. I started limping with a crutch. Then 2. Then none. The pain settled deep in the joint. Not loud, just present. A ghost under the skin. By December, I could walk again. But I never moved the same. At school, I said it was a sports injury. At home, no one asked. A few weeks later, I found the Mickey plush stuffed in the laundry cabinet, soaking wet from a spilled detergent bottle. I never said a word. Just wrung it out, let it dry, and put it in a drawer. Some things aren't meant to be held. Just kept. Just remembered. The crutches stayed until March. By April, the limp was barely visible unless it rained. Number 1 mentioned the scar on my thigh. I didn't talk much at home anymore. Not because I was angry. Just because I'd finally learned the rules. Silence didn't get punished. It got forgotten. And forgotten was safer. They called my brother Buddy. He got new cleats, new braces, new everything. He'd talk about baseball at the table, and Dad would lean in like he was decoding scripture. When I mentioned an essay I won, Mom said, "That's great, honey," without looking up from her phone. I started spending most weekends at the library. It opened at 9. I'd be waiting at 8:45. They never asked where I went. Mrs. Finch, the librarian, started bringing an extra thermos of tea. Didn't ask questions, just put it next to me and walked away. Kindness, when it comes quietly, feels like mercy. At school, I was invisible until grades came out. Then teachers smiled like I was a surprise they hadn't ordered. "You're quiet," they'd say. I wanted to say, quiet doesn't mean calm. It just means no one's listening. My brother got suspended once for fighting. My parents took him out to dinner because he stood his ground. That same month, I got nominated for a state writing competition. They forgot to fill out the permission slip. When I asked Mom if she'd seen the form, she said, "Can you handle it yourself? I've got a migraine." I forged her signature. Placed 3rd statewide. Told no one. They gave my room to my brother's gaming setup when I turned 15. Said it made more sense. "You're always at the library anyway." Dad shrugged. They moved me into the guest room. It still smelled like mothballs and regret. No closet. 1 lamp. Window didn't open. I didn't argue. I just packed my things in a single trip. My 16th birthday landed on a Tuesday. I came home to leftover spaghetti in a cold pot and no one home. There was a card on the kitchen counter. No name, no envelope. Just Happy 16th in Sharpie. Underneath was a pair of socks. My brother got a car the year before. I started waking up earlier, doing laundry at 5 a.m., leaving the house before anyone else was awake. Some days I'd sit outside in the cold just to feel something that wasn't mine. I found an old camcorder in the garage, started filming bugs on windowsills, rain sliding off mailboxes, dead things that no one cried over. Uploaded one to a forum. Someone called it quietly brutal. I liked that. Senior year, I applied to 19 colleges, all full rides. I made spreadsheets of deadlines, essays, fee waivers. Number 1 asked to see them. One morning I left a note. Accepted to 4, leaving Friday. Bus at 4:30 a.m. Thanks for everything. When I stepped onto that Greyhound, Number 1 came to say goodbye. No hug, no warning, just road. The dorm room smelled like fresh paint. My roommate had already claimed the better bed. Didn't matter. It was the first place I ever belonged to without being reminded I didn't. I took the bottom bunk, opened my laptop, typed one word in a blank document. Begin. College wasn't freedom. It was the absence of fear. Nobody there knew who I used to be. They just saw code, grades, presentations. I liked being useful. It was the closest I'd ever felt to being wanted. Sophomore year, I started my first internship. Campus IT, night shift, broken servers, forgotten passwords, things people only noticed when they stopped working. I liked it. It felt familiar. By junior year, I'd stopped returning holiday texts. Thanksgiving? Hope you're well. Christmas? Let us know if you're around. I never answered. They never followed up. At 20, I sold a script I wrote for a sentiment mapping tool. Got paid enough to live for 3 years. Didn't buy a car, didn't celebrate. I just moved to a quieter apartment and bought blackout curtains. One night my brother called. First time in years. I let it go to voicemail. Listened to it on loop once a week for a year. Hey, Mom says you're doing something with computers now. That's cool. Anyway, hope you're good. Maybe we could grab food sometime. He sounded like he was talking to a cashier. Polite. Like I might forget if he didn't say it right. I kept the voicemail, but never called back. My junior project advisor once told me, "You have a gift for silence. You make the machine speak without yelling." I didn't correct him. The silence didn't speak. It screamed. By the time I graduated, I had a job lined up, a project launching, and a name people didn't forget in the hiring circuit. They sent me a graduation card. Typed. Signed, The Family. No message. I folded it once. Put it in the drawer next to the Mickey plush. Sometimes I imagined the two of them talking. The plush would whisper, "They never meant to hurt you." And the card would answer, "They just didn't mean to love you either." There was no ceremony when I graduated. I took the diploma from the registrar, folded it into my backpack, and walked back to the apartment I shared with no one. A neighbor's dog barked as I passed. That was the loudest thing I heard that day. I got my first offer letter before winter. Base pay, $80,000. Benefits, equity, training. I turned it down. Too much noise. Too many people. I took a freelance contract instead. System testing, emotional modeling, artificial intelligence that could read human sentiment in text. They wanted it for marketing. I had other ideas. Most people train machines to respond like people. I trained them to detect people lying. We all lie. But some lies are softer, like, "We're proud of you," or "You always find a way." My first build wasn't flashy. A sentiment engine, fed on 5 years of chat logs, emails, text messages, all stripped of names, all scored against a weighted framework of empathy, hostility, indifference. It learned fast. So did I. I called it Spectre, because it could see what wasn't said, because I had become one. I pitched the engine to a private hiring firm that vetted C-level executive. They passed. Said it lacked human warmth. I added warmth. Programmed empathy modifiers. Built a new UI with a softer color palette. They said yes. 3 months later, it flagged a CEO candidate as emotionally dangerous based on phrasing from a condolence email. That man never got hired. Number 1 knew why. That was when I realized people didn't need saving. They needed sorting. I started building alone. Nights, mostly. The dark was more honest than daylight. I founded Archive at 24. No co-founder, no advisors, no launch party. A hiring intelligence platform. Artificial intelligence vetting tool. Simple interface. Quiet design. The tagline read, "We don't ask who you are. We show who you've been." It started slow. First a nonprofit, then a retail group, then a logistics firm wanting low empathy red flag detection for warehouse managers. The irony wasn't lost on me. By 26, we had a federal defense subcontract. By 27, we were running background screens for 2 Fortune 100s. Number 1 knew who ran it. I stayed off panels, declined interviews, let others speak for me. I preferred quiet. Internally, I designed the scoring engine myself. Emotion weight, behavioral slope, future risk indexing. At the heart of it all, a module I called K1NGDM. Nobody knew what it stood for. I told them it was a keyword reactivity tool. That wasn't a lie. Not really. K1NGDM was built from one word: kingdom, the word that started everything. Typed once in a text from my mother 15 years ago. You always find a way. We're doing Magic Kingdom first. I never forgot it. I fed that phrase into the model 1,000 times. It always flagged as emotional detachment masked as encouragement. The machine had learned what I had learned. Some people say love, but mean inconvenience. I watched Archive grow from a terminal in my apartment. Never got a bigger place. Never hired an assistant. When you've lived alone in every way that matters, space feels like guilt. So I kept it small. My brother called once. Blocked number. I answered. Hey, long time. Just heard you're doing something tech, right? I didn't respond. He chuckled. Mom says you're some genius now. That true? I looked at the screen, watched the waveforms jump when he laughed, still measuring me in rumors, still dialing the wrong person. I hung up, didn't block the number. A month later, we flagged a new applicant. Resume looked good. Strong GPA, minor in data ethics. Referral from a boutique firm with ties to my early freelance circle. But something in the phrasing caught the machine. Soft signals. K1NGDM marked it for review. The name was familiar. Surname flagged first. Then the metadata. I opened the file. Connor Reeves, my brother. He had applied to Archive, to the company I built from the floor of every room number 1 ever waited in, to a system trained on the bones of every silence I was raised in. He hadn't even tried to reach out first. Just hit submit. There was a note in the cover letter. I've always believed in systems that help people find where they belong. The irony didn't hit. It detonated. HR forwarded me his email. I know the CEO personally. Please fast-track my application. He didn't, but I remembered the line. I know the CEO personally. Funny how people confuse shared blood with shared worth. I didn't respond to HR. Instead, I ran his data through the full scoring system. Red flags, 0. Soft-spoken, friendly, social metrics high. The perfect mask. The same voice that laughed at a FaceTime screen while I bled onto bathroom tile. I opened his voicemail again. The left back in college. Played it once, then again, then fed it into the system. Spectre flagged the final sentence. Maybe we could grab food sometime? Tag. Low integrity. Unreciprocated emotional exchange. The machine saw it now. So did I. I opened a blank notepad file. Typed 6 words. Magic Kingdom, right? Let's talk. Monday, noon. No signature. Just those words. I emailed it to the HR alias he listed. Then I sat back and waited. The email was answered 43 minutes after I sent it. Hey, wow, I wasn't sure if this would reach you. I'm in town all week. Monday works. Thanks so much, man. Seriously, means the world. Connor. No punctuation on thanks. No apology. No acknowledgement of anything. Just assumption. Monday, noon. I booked the conference room with the tall windows and the thin walls, the kind where silence echoes louder than conversation. He showed up early. That part surprised me. Hair shorter than I remembered. New suit. Lanyard swinging. Smile preloaded. I watched from the hallway camera feed as he practiced his greeting in the glass. Straightened his jacket, adjusted his tie, flexed his jaw. Hey man, great to see you. Damn, it's been a minute. He was rehearsing comfort, performing confidence. That's the thing about people who've never been hurt deeply. They think control looks like a smile. I entered the room at 12:02. Let him feel the weight of the weight. He stood up fast, grinning. Man, you look different. Bigger, I guess? I didn't know if this would actually... I sat. Didn't return the handshake. He let his hand drop. Laughed awkwardly. Listen, he started. I know this is a little weird, but the application, I didn't even realize you were the guy behind Archive until... He stopped. I didn't speak. Silence does what screaming never could. It rearranges people. He cleared his throat. Anyway, I was hoping you might be able to, nudge things. I've been looking for something new. Things at the firm are changing. He smiled again. That smile. The same one he wore on a screen while I bled on cold tile. The same one in every vacation photo I was never in. Mom says you're killing it, he added. She sends her love. I looked at him. She said what? He blinked. She says she hopes you're doing well. She misses you. I nodded. That was a lie. But he didn't know that I already knew. 2 weeks ago, she DM'd me. Your brother's going through a tough time. Maybe you could help. You always find a way. Same emoji, same knife. Anyway, he said, reaching into his bag. I brought my resume in case you wanted to see it directly. He placed it on the table between us like an offering, a bribe wrapped in effort. I've always admired how you kept going, he said. Even back then, man. You were, resilient. Resilient. I nodded again. He meant silent. He meant we ignored you and you never made us feel bad about it. I never got to say sorry, he added. Still no apology. I was just a kid, right? We both were. I looked down at the resume. The first line read, passionate about organizational integrity and emotional intelligence. I felt something inside me finally laugh. It was a quiet thing, dry and brittle, like paper catching fire without flame. I picked up the resume, read it slowly, then looked at him. What's the Magic Kingdom? He blinked. What? The Magic Kingdom. You remember? He laughed nervously. Oh, man, you mean that trip? I didn't answer. He kept talking. Wow, that was years ago. I can't believe you remember that. He smiled. Again, Dad said you were mad about missing the rides. You always took things kind of personal, you know? I placed the resume down, slid it back across the table, perfectly aligned with the grain. Thanks for coming in. He blinked. That's it. I stood. Magic Kingdom, right? He opened his mouth. I walked out. That night, Mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. I just think you're being cruel. He's your brother. He was a child. So was I. So was I when I waited 14 hours to be found. Dad emailed me the next day. Subject line, this is beneath you. I deleted it without opening. HR sent me a follow-up. Applicant Connor Reeves contacted us requesting a status update. Would you like to proceed with the interview? I wrote back, application withdrawn. No further action. No explanation. No warning. Just the same mercy I was never given. One day later, a gift basket showed up at reception. Cookies, fruit, a bottle of wine. The card read, thanks again. Hope we can catch up sometime. Proud of you, man. I left it in the break room. Didn't sign the discard form. Didn't need to. That week, we onboarded 3 new analysts. Bright, sharp, kind. One of them asked me during lunch, is it true you're I can predict regret? I said no. Regret requires empathy. What it does detect is pattern collapse. When a person finally realizes they're not the center of your story, just a footnote, a system error, a red flag. The Monday after the meeting, Connor's archive profile was flagged again. Not by the system, by me. One line in his resume had stayed with me. Strong under pressure. Performs in complex ethical environments. I watched that sentence float on the screen. It looked like a lie wearing a suit. I built a special function for Spectre and never released it. Private use only. A passive social indexer that tracked tone consistency across written communications. I called it Spindle because it could unweave a person's story. I fed in every public interaction I could scrape. LinkedIn comments, college forums, Slack export from the referral company he mentioned. His tone was clean, professional, sterile, but buried in archived group chats were fragments. You know my brother? The weird one ? Yeah, he's some kind of tech monk now. Lives alone. Classic trauma story. Parents basically disowned him, LOL. Not that he made it easy. I tagged each line with Spectre's core. Deflective dismissal, ego cover, minimal remorse. The system scored it at 81.3 on the insincerity spectrum, just shy of calculated manipulation. I adjusted the weights. Scored again. This time it passed. I scheduled a meeting with HR that Wednesday. Internal policy review. Quiet room. No urgency. Candidate was flagged during background reanalysis, I said. No name, no emotion. Ghost accounts identified possible personality masking. They nodded. I added, not a security risk, just not a culture fit. That's all you have to say. In this world, not a fit is execution in a tailored suit. I left no note, no mark, just close the folder, lock the system, let the machine forget him the way they forgot me. Friday afternoon, I called Mom. First time in years. She answered on the 3rd ring. Sweetheart? The words scraped across my skin like sandpaper. We heard about the job. He said you were cold. I was. A pause. That's not how we raised you. I stared at the window. You didn't raise me. She laughed nervously. Don't be dramatic. You turned out fine. There it was. The crown jewel of every abuser's defense. You survived, so we must have done something right. Do you remember what you texted me that night? I asked. What? The night you left, when my leg was broken. She went quiet. I don't remember specifics. It was so long ago. I read it back to her, word for word. You always find a way. We're doing Magic Kingdom first. She didn't respond. I let the silence stretch. That's what this was about? She said finally. That was just the title screen. She said they'd tried to reach out, Said I had always been distant. Said Connor cried when he didn't get the job. Said he looked up to me. I said nothing. Because if I'd said what I felt, it would have been a fire. And they don't deserve warmth. The next morning, a package arrived. No return address. Just my name. Slanted handwriting. Inside, a photo. 3 people in Mickey ears. The caption read, "Best trip ever. June 2010. They'd printed it on canvas, as if I was supposed to hang it. I burned it in the sink. Watched the ears curl in the flame. The smiles blacken. No ceremony. No scream. Just smoke. That night, I walked down to the basement. Opened the drawer with the Mickey plush. Still intact. Still smiling. I placed it in a padded envelope. Addressed it to Connor's work. No note. Just the toy. Let him figure it out. Let him remember the smile he once wore while I waited to be found. A week later, Spectre flagged a headline. Candidate ghosted by AI-based hiring firm speaks out on mental health crisis in tech. The article wasn't about me, but it circled me. Photos blurred, company unnamed, but I was there, in the shadow of it. A sentence caught my eye. It's easy to forget someone when they stay quiet, until they're the ones writing the rules. I didn't comment, didn't respond, just highlighted the quote, saved it, named the file, always. Later that night, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. It just said, "You got your revenge. You happy?" I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed back, "No, I got my silence, that's different," and hit send. A month passed. The Mickey plush was never returned. No email, no text, just silence. Good. Let it rot in the same kind of quiet I grew up in. I read an article about him, Connor, posted on a niche hiring blog. The title, "When AI Says You're Not Enough." They used stock photos. A grayscale of a man looking down at his resume. He never mentioned me by name, but he didn't have to. "I thought being qualified was enough," he wrote. "But sometimes systems see things people can't." I almost laughed. Almost. But grief doesn't laugh. It just tightens its grip and waits for your bones to crack. My parents didn't call again. That part, I appreciated. The last voicemail from Mom stayed in my inbox for 2 more weeks. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, but because keeping it meant I still expected something. One evening, I walked into a used bookstore I used to visit in college. It smelled the same. Dust, old paper, a hint of rain through cracked windows. I picked up a book I'd read 3 times already. Franny and Zoe, torn spine, dog-eared pages. The owner said, "Didn't peg you for a rereader. Only the things that don't change," I said. I didn't explain what I meant. She didn't ask. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, opened the drawer. Inside, the burned edge of the photo canvas, the graduation card, unsigned, and the envelope that once held the plush. I didn't cry. I just closed the drawer again and got back to work. Some people heal, others rebuild. I just optimize. Spectre got a system update 3 weeks later. A new tag, legacy harm, a weighted pattern for long-term familial damage masked by social normalcy. The code worked better when it hurt a little. I was invited to speak at a summit that fall. Topic: emotional algorithms in hiring spaces. I almost declined, but something in me, not pride, not ego, just endurance, said yes. They seated me front row, introduced me with applause I didn't return. I spoke softly, clear, no slides, just one image on the screen, a black square, no data, no labels. This is what the system sees when no one is looking. I let the silence hang, let the discomfort stretch across the room like a wire. Then I walked off stage. Outside, in the lobby, a man stopped me. Corporate type, middle-aged, soft hands, nice suit. "That was something," he said. "What inspired you to build all that?" I looked at him. "A trip I never went on." He laughed, confused. I didn't explain. That night, I stood in the lobby of a Disney hotel. Not planned, just ended up there, passing through. Families filed past me, kids in light-up shoes, parents snapping photos, laughter echoing through tiled halls. I stood there for 10 minutes, then walked out, didn't check in, didn't look back. Back home, I made tea, sat in the dark, watched the city move through the window like static. It was quiet, not lonely, not peaceful, just quiet. I opened a new file, named it silence.docx, typed nothing, saved it, closed the laptop. That was enough. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.